Alright, my darlings, I wanted to talk a little bit about the appeasement cycle, and I've got like 15 minutes. I'm going to be being a bad girl and smoking, but I wanted to talk about how this can, especially if you're married to somebody who's still stuck in this, it can really suck, and it can make it seem like your spouse doesn't actually give a shit about you, and that's really not what they're coming from. So when you have somebody who's been raised by an abuser, and of course none of this is ever said like this, it's not verbal, it's all very, very subconscious, they will train them from birth to take their abuse. And one of the things that they do is they will, anytime the victim does anything to try to stop the abuse, they withdraw. And they do this when they are very, very, very little. You can see parents, like shitty parents, doing it to 2-year-olds and even younger. So for a very young child before the age of 6, lack of parental involvement equals death. It's just, we're not talking about this as some sort of existential crisis. If you think about it, a 2-3-year-old child, sorry, I'm walking. A 2 to 3-year-old child cannot take care of themselves. They can't provide themselves food or shelter. So you end up with the cycle where very, very deep down emotionally, making mom mad is, it feels like death or a death threat. So you end up with, a strapping 6'8" financially successful guy terrified of telling his mother no, and she can't do a damn fucking thing. She can't hit him anymore, she can't do any of the rest of that shit anymore, but he won't tell her no, because he's so afraid of it. And he'll throw anything and do anything and say anything to make mom happy in that moment when he is triggered and trying to make it happen. And it's something that I used to do. I thought of it as spinning plates. One of the ways people keep others in sick systems is to constantly have some sort of crisis going, because that way nobody can really get a footing, nobody can really think about what they need and what they want, and there's no time or space for reflection. So you are always spinning plates, and you are saying and doing anything to keep everybody happy and on an even keel. And it doesn't matter if the shit that you're promising is impossible, or if the things that you are promising person 1 are things that you've promised person 2 you're not going to do. And this shows up in the JustNoMil world all the time with things like, oh, of course my mom can stay with us when she's here on vacation. And then he goes home and his wife is furious about this because, he didn't check it over with his wife first, and she does not want this crazy bitch in her house. So, so you end up sort of going to every single person and just doing and saying whatever to keep everybody happy. And then, eventually it all crashes down, but you've been trained to do this sort of thing literally since birth in some cases. And it's really, really frustrating because you end up with a situation where, you and your spouse in a calm, rational moment have promised that you're not going to invite invite people into the house without discussing it with each other first. And then all of a sudden you've got 6 people invited to your house for Christmas that you hate all of them. It's freaking horrible. And then you're mad at your spouse. Well, and the worst part of this is, in this particular pattern, your spouse is going to throw you under the bus and keep doing whatever he needs to do to appease mommy, because you're rational and she's not. So he can basically, you're being mad at him sucks, but it doesn't trigger the same existential dread, panic reaction of, oh my god, I'm going to die if I don't keep this woman happy. And I don't think the abusers do this. Like, they're not saying, they're like, okay, well, how can I make sure that anytime this person tells me no for the rest of their life, they have a panic attack and can't think straight. But I mean, it works, and these people have fairly limited emotional ranges, and so they keep doing what works, and a lot of them have had it done to them before as well, so they normalize it. And so you end up in these situations where if the guy is spinning plates and appeasing, and something happens, wife gets thrown down and mom gets what she wants, and it's a shitty pattern. But if you break down the pattern and know what's going on in all those different places, it's a lot easier to fix. Because I threw my wife under the bus a lot. I let my mother, who is evil, move in with us. Pretty sure anybody who sees this is gonna find it through the JustNoMil crew, but my mom is fucking Linda. Not in the verb sense, in the adjective sense. My mom is a horrible person, and I let her do awful things to my wife because I was in plate spinning mode and I was in appeasement mode, and it caused a lot of fights between me and my wife until I grew a spine and told my mom to fuck off. And that was scary and awesome, and when I made it stick, it was great. So wanted to do a little bit about the psychology of people raised by abusers and sort of how it can impact your marriage and relationships. If you're, like I said, if you're aware of this, you can go, hey, are you plate spinning? Hey, are you appeasing? And you can talk about it more rationally. But if you're not aware of it, if it's just automatic action and then reaction, it's going to cause a lot of fights and a lot of problems, and it's not ever going to change until it's brought to light. So I hope that's helpful for someone. Hasta la pasta.